All right. So tonight we're talking with Shante Jackson. This is Thrive, Flourish, Prosper. And Shante is an author. She is also a survivor of sexual assault. So we're going to talk some about her story, about her healing process, about her platform and ways in which she does or hopes to be able to help other survivors. And that's pretty much what Thrive, Flourish, and Prosper is all about. Helping each other, giving each other hope, we're a resource, things like that. And so the name of Shantae's book is Chloe's Tree of Life, A Safe Place. You can find that on Amazon, would be one of the platforms that you can find it on. So welcome, Shantae. Thank you so much for
Hi,
your willingness to share.
of course. Welcome.
Yeah.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for having me as well.
Yeah, we really appreciate it. And so I'm going to jump right in and just kind of start
Okay.
talking about your book. So Chloe's Tree of Life, A Safe Place.
Yes, ma'am.
What would be an overview of the book? How would you sort of give us a level overview of what the book is about?
So the book is based off a true events based off of my life. So Chloe is a representation of myself. Um, I named it's based off my life. It's most everything in there is true. It's just not a biography because I didn't add the actual names and things like that of the people that were in the book. So I kind of you know, left a little bit of it out, but it's just based on me being sexually abused as a child, growing up in a family that was portrayed as being the perfect family. It was a facade because we had the nice house and me and my brother, my parents were married and the two family household. Parents worked pretty well jobs, but inside of the home was very mentally draining, just dealing with the abuse of my brother, and then my dad was very abusive to my mother. So just seeing the domestic violence as well as dealing with own violence from the hands of my older brother, and just trying to cope through teenage life and having my teenage years really stripped from me, and then finding myself sexually as well, and how that was very detrimental and just me growing up. So it's just a window into my life and what I had to deal with. I'm working on part two because it's definitely not finished yet.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
yeah, it's based off of my life.
Okay. Okay.
Mhm.
And so I wanted to ask you, a tree. What is the symbolism of the tree?
So the tree symbolizes um, my escape. That was, we had like a pretty big backyard, and of course, like being in a household with abusive older brother and an abusive father, I had to escape. And then at that age, you really can't go too far, right? Because of your parents and stuff like that. So I always went to this one particular tree that is the actual tree in front of my book cover is that actual tree.
Hmm.
I went back to shoot. I wanted to be very authentic, so I went back to my backyard where I grew up and took a picture of the tree, and it just symbolizes comfort for me. That
Hmm.
was my escape, was to climb that tree on different branches and just cry majority of the time. Um, I used to think that I used to think that I was a bird and I could just fly away.
Hmm.
So it was my safe place. So that's another reason why I named it Chloe's Tree of Life, a safe place, because that tree really did save me.
Exactly.
So
Yeah,
hmm
I love that. I love that.
hmm
And I also like the fact that you did have a safe place.
right, right.
You know, it's
hmm
that's important in those kind of situations to have
hmm
a place, a space, a person,
Yes.
to
hmm
to give you that. Um, so you mentioned something else when you were talking. You mentioned about coping
hmm
through, being a teenager and kind of coping. What did that look like for you?
It didn't look like anything, to
Hmm.
be very, very honest. Um, just going back to shooting for my book cover, I cried immediately when I got into the backyard. because it was very, I can cry about it now because that tree was very essential to me getting through what
Mm-hmm.
I went through. So
Mm-hmm.
coping mechanisms, I would obviously say the tree, and I was
Mm-hmm.
writing. So it was, I had, back in the day, they still have the black and white marble notebooks you get for a
Yeah.
dollar, right? And I always just wrote
Mm-hmm.
because I didn't know of the coping mechanisms that was out there for me to reach out to, because again, this was at age 11, so I didn't know of any of those things. So I just wrote in my book. I always excelled in English. I always loved reading. I always loved writing. But that was just another way for me to escape, was just writing in my journal book. And I always knew that I would turn my story, my life, into a story.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then I just always put it under my mattress so my mom wouldn't find it or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
So that was my coping mechanism. It would be the tree, and then just writing. Just
Yeah.
yeah, just writing.
Yeah. That's good. That's
Mhm,
good.
mhm,
Writing. Did
mhm.
you also do a lot of reading?
All the time.
Yeah.
I've probably read so
Yeah.
many books to this, thus far. I probably read over probably 500 books, maybe. I just, because even getting older, and I know we'll eventually get into that, but even when I was older, I always use reading as an escape. So I would,
Mm-hmm.
get nonfiction books, and I would be so into that character or characters because it took me away from my life. So
Yeah.
yeah, it was just it just reading books would just, it would just be like my little just reading, and I'm like escaping. I would just feel like I was those characters, and I would just take a
Mm-hmm.
minute out of my life to just escape. So
Yeah.
reading was very, very essential to a lot of parts of my life.
Yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
I agree with that, and I can definitely relate to that. And because you write, and the way you were describing writing, I figured that reading, was also a big part of that for you. And I
Hmm.
was exactly the same way. I read books, I had the
Hmm.
magazines, and
Right,
just
right.
everything. And you're right, it really was an escape. Like I literally, escaped into, the
Yes,
stories, and I became the people, that I was reading about, and it became
yes,
like my life.
yes,
I can
yes.
remember a time I was so, into this book that I was reading, and people were talking to me
Hmm.
around me, and I couldn't even hear them. I was so into it. It was
Engrossed, yeah.
almost like I had literally just sort of,
Went into the
morphed
book.
into this,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
I couldn't even hear the people around
Yes,
me,
yes,
talking
yes.
to me in real life.
Yep. Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And you
Hmm.
talked about the bird and, thinking that you were a bird or wishing you
Yep.
could be a bird and fly away.
Yep.
Had those
Yep.
same types of, for me, it was being invisible.
Mm.
And it
Hmm.
was almost like I would literally try to will myself invisible so
Hmm.
nobody could see me, nobody could
Yep.
hear me, you
I
know?
1,000% agree. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I
Yeah.
couldn't have
It's,
said it
it's,
better.
it's, it's Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's really interesting. I always find it really interesting that though we're different, we're more alike than different. We may have
Hmm.
gone through our experiences differently,
Hmm.
had
Hmm.
different, family members, like all of
Hmm.
that, but
Hmm.
there's a lot of similarity,
Hmm.
in our lives through this particular trauma.
Yep. And you're going to find
Yeah,
that with so many people. Like it's
yeah.
even though, like you said, you might not have the specifics of the actual act of the trauma, but the effects of it is so, you just find so many people that you can just relate to. And
Yeah.
it's very refreshing to know that
Mhm.
you're not the only person that you felt, because you, at that time, you feel like you're alone, you feel like you're crazy, or you feel like you're just so different. And um but it's, when I start speaking about my past, it was refreshing to know that wasn't only one. Obviously, I don't want people to go through what I went through, but this is life and people have. But it was just a refreshing to know that I wasn't the only person that did these things that are not normal, and the feelings that I had, someone else felt them. And it's so
Mhm.
refreshing to know that you are, I know it's so cliche to say that you're not alone, but it is refreshing to know that, you're not crazy, or you're not, you just, there's so many other people
Mhm.
that went through what you went through. So
For
it's
sure.
it's
For
it's
sure.
strengthened it. we always
Yeah.
know there's strength in numbers, right? So
Yeah.
it's very much strength in knowing that there's other people that went through the same thing you went through, and we're here.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So on that note, when you were at what point were you able to begin to talk about the things that you had experienced? Like when you were younger, were there friends? I remember when I was a teenager, and I knew at least two other of my friends that had been,
Hmm.
sexually assaulted. And
Hmm.
so even though we knew that about each other, what was interesting is that we still didn't talk about it, you
Yeah,
know?
of course.
So it
Hmm.
wasn't something really for me that I could really start talking about until well into my adulthood. How
Absolutely.
was that for you?
So in the book, that's one part that was not true. I had a group of friends, and all of them in the book are people that are still here that bought the book. And when they bought the book, they're like, I didn't even know that was happening to you. So in the book, I said that I told them,
Mm-hmm.
that I told my friends, but in real life, I didn't tell anyone. Um, Again, my friends just found out when the book came out. So um, I I think the first person that I told around my group, my age, was my cousin, about what my brother did. But besides that, I just really started being vocal about it maybe like a couple years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So it was only like maybe my partner that I'm boyfriend or girlfriend that I might have had. They might have known. I might have told maybe like 3 or 4 people that I was with.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but as in coming out and telling people that I don't know, it's just been the last couple of years. So.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Now, were there other adults around when you were a child, and all the experiences, with the domestic violence and with your
Mhm.
brother and all of that? Were there any other adult? Did they know? Was there any sort of, somebody trying to help or anything like that?
No, no. I felt like I didn't want to tell my mom because she was so busy trying not to get beat and majority of the time killed from my father. So I didn't feel that I didn't want to add another pressure to her. She was
Mm-hmm.
always dealing with something.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the reason I didn't tell my mom or tell anyone about my brother. And then when I was gang assaulted, um, I told my cousins, two of my cousins, and I told my boyfriend at the time, that I was gang assaulted. And then it was all around the town that it happened. So that was more people knew about the gang assault than they did my brother, right? Because it was, how the whole sweep stuff under the rug, tell family business
Mm-hmm.
type of, yeah.
Yes.
And then when I was raped at 17, I kept that to myself as well.
Mm-hmm.
So that being, I was just vocal about that at the same time that I was vocal about my brother, what he did.
Mm-hmm.
Because, and the reason why I didn't tell anybody about the rape, because of the situation that I was in. I was drunk. It was my cousin's boyfriend. I was already looked at as the girl that was fast because I had a child at 16. The name that was Shantae's a hoe, Shantae's this. So I already knew that nobody would believe me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I didn't. I kept that inside for a while, and then when I just start educating myself and understanding myself and having more strength, knowing that I remember that day to the like I remember everything that happened.
Mm-hmm.
I knew that it wasn't my fault, and I know that I didn't need to hide or feel
Mm.
ashamed anymore.
Yeah.
So that's when I started being more vocal.
Right, right.
Mm-hmm.
And so before that, how are you kind of feeling about yourself, feeling about people, feeling about, this world that you found yourself in?
I went through a lot of uh so after all those situations, right? I just felt that my body wasn't mine. It was always being used sexually.
Mm,
So I would be very, very sexual.
mm,
A lot of um, using. I thought that I was, so obviously I had a thing against men, right? Because I was all my experiences, mostly all my experience with men, um, you know, from being sexually abused at the age of 11, my tone for men were already negative. And then
Mhm.
situation after situations, had occurred. I always thought that two things. I thought I was always going to use men, so I'll get in a relationship, and then guys would want to have a relationship, and I would just have sex with them and leave because I was trying to hurt their feelings before mine got hurt. And then at the same time, um, I was a sex addict. And what happens is, we all know what happens is, either when you are sexually assaulted or raped, whatever, it's either you don't want anybody to touch you. It's very hard
Mhm.
for you to get into sexual experiences again,
Mhm.
or you're a sexual addict. I was a
Mhm.
sexual addict. So I didn't respect my body because it was never mine from the beginning.
Mhm.
That I Back then, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
So I just gave it up, thinking that
Mhm.
it was power in that,
Mhm.
and thinking that, again, like, I was going to hurt other people before you could hurt me. And
Right.
that,
Right.
as I got older and healed and became the woman that I knew, and took power in my body, I didn't know that. I thought what I was doing was right. I just,
Mhm.
yeah, it was, yeah. I went
Yeah.
through a lot of stuff,
Yeah. Yeah.
but
Yeah. I'm sure.
that's how I cope with it. I just cope
Mhm.
with it in a sexual form, in a physical, because it wasn't mental at
Yeah.
that part. It was just physical, because
Yeah.
again, I was introduced to physical
Mhm.
at age
Yeah.
11, and then it just
Yeah.
went from there.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's all I know.
Yeah, yeah. No,
Mhm.
I get it, and it's interesting how when you were talking and you were talking about, I'm gonna hurt before I get hurt, and
Mhm.
in that, we don't realize how much though we are hurting. Like how much
Mhm.
we're hurting ourselves in even,
Yes.
in even
Yes.
doing that, we think we're being, we
Mhm.
have power and we're, in
Mhm.
control and all of those things, but
Mhm.
if that behavior goes on and on, especially, throughout your life,
Mhm.
it can be very
Mhm.
detrimental,
Mhm.
to you and to all of your, relationships.
Mhm.
And I had that same kind of thing. And for me, it was just all relationships. It didn't
Mhm.
matter, male, female,
Mhm.
friend, family, whatever it was. I was very much that way. The closer in that you came to me,
Mhm.
was like
Mhm.
that was like a red flag,
Yes.
and it was like,
Yes.
oh yeah,
Yes.
no, I have to, I got to push you away,
Yep. Yep. Mhm.
because to me, the closer you got, you had more power, to
Mhm.
hurt me,
Yes.
and so it's
Yes.
like, oh yeah,
Yes.
no, no, I'm not going to give you that. You're getting too close. I'm
Mhm.
going to back you up. I'm going to
Yep.
back you
Yeah.
off. Yeah,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
that can, and I found myself, thankfully, learning over the years, just kind of learning really how much damage that was doing to me,
Yes. Exactly.
and to my life, and to
Mhm.
my being able
Mhm.
to thrive and to love and to
Mhm.
feel and
Mhm.
to have all of that, you know.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah.
That is exactly, and that's another thing that inspired me to write the book. So, um, like I said in the beginning, I always knew that my life was going to become a story. I actually want to make it into a movie, but that's down the line.
Hmm.
But the second reason why I wrote that book is because of one person in particular. Because I messed that relationship up. It was the first time that I had ever fell in love. I'm 40. This was probably 32-ish, maybe.
Hmm.
Um, Never fell in love before. I've been in a relationship, love those persons, but it's a totally different than loving and falling in love, and that's another topic that people can talk about. But for me, falling in love is totally different. So I fell in
Okay.
love with this guy, and my wall was up, because again, from trying to hurt, and when it feels too good, or when it feels too good to be true,
Hmm.
you back out.
Hmm.
um and he is the first person that made me realize that, well, he's the first person that didn't take advantage of me being a sex addict. So, any other person was like, oh, she's a sex addict, the more sex that, the better.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
him, once he knew my story, he was like, no, we're not going to, like, calm down. We're going to get to know each other. We're not going to, he wouldn't let me have sex with him, because he knew that was just something, it was just a coping thing for me.
Yeah.
So he's the only one that actually didn't take advantage of me being that way, and actually wanted to learn me. And then I messed it up. My insecurities, my wall
Hmm.
messed up, uh, messed it up. And I was just
Yeah.
like, I need to really, like, I need to get it together because I messed up a really great relationship,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
because I was all my insecurities.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's just another inspiration on why I wrote the book, is because that particular person as well. So
Mm-hmm.
it's yeah, because it was, I had to realize, like, Shante, you are really like destroying a life that you deserve. But then I didn't think that I deserved to be happy, and I didn't
Mm-hmm.
deserve to have someone but look at me besides the physical part. I didn't think I
Mm-hmm.
deserved that. I never
Yeah.
really did. I
Yeah.
didn't think
Yeah.
that yet.
Yeah, understandable. It really is. That's
Mm-hmm.
understandable with all that you had been through.
Mm-hmm.
That makes perfect sense. Your reactions, your responses,
Yeah.
your behaviors. It really does.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
how would you describe healing for you? Were there certain steps that you took, certain things that you did in the process? And talking about healing, I do like to always say that it is a process and it's
Oh, absolutely.
ongoing. It's not
Yes.
a destination you
Yes.
arrive at, oh, I'm healed,
Yes.
I'm
Yes.
good.
Yes.
No, it's
Yes.
it's 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 ongoing. These things may
Yep.
have happened to us in our childhood, but here we are
Mm,
today.
mm,
There's still a process.
yes.
There's still some things, and triggers and
Mm,
things like that.
mm,
So I just like
mm,
to say that I'm not talking about some sort of perfection, and
mm,
healing,
mm.
but it gets better.
Yes.
You
Absolutely.
make progress. So what did that look like for you, kind of when you began to kind of taking steps to that journey?
Um, First, I got to say you're exactly right. It's an ongoing process. People think it's just it's a checklist and then you're done.
Mm-hmm.
I keep trying to tell people that it's not.
Mm-mm.
It's a journey. It's a
Yeah.
healing journey, and it
Yeah.
keeps going and going. So
Yeah.
definitely agree with you on that one. So I would say it was when I started taking control. I used to be around my brother for my mom. My mom was my best friend. So I used to always put everybody else's feelings besides mine. I'm a giver. I don't, what else? I don't know. I just always sacrifice my safety and my feelings for everybody else.
Mm.
And I used to do that with my mom. I used to be around my brother because my mom wanted to have the family and, barbecues and stuff. And I used to deal with it. And then, maybe like 10 or so years ago, I was like, no, I'm tired of it. Like, I'm not going to. So I guess it started there. But honestly, that only lasted for so long. It actually, it's it's really hard to pinpoint, but it's probably when my mom passed away. She just passed. It'll be 3 years this November.
Mm.
So I would say that, and I'm gonna try
Mm-hmm.
not to get emotional because I cry every
Yeah,
time I talk about my mom.
I
But
understand. Yeah.
she's my everything.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
um, it would be that because after my mom was gone, it's like I don't need to be around my brother, right? And it just hit me. And so my mom passed away in 2019. I would say like 2020 began in 2020 because talk with my therapist and stuff like that. I'm like, I don't need to put up this. Like, I don't want you around me. And I just wrote him a letter and told him how he made me feel through all my life and what he has done to me. I had called my sister-in-law, make sure he read it, and after she told me and verified that he read it, I felt so much better. Writing the book was very therapeutic. Just continuously having therapists, a lot of writing, a lot of educational books on abuse and what it does to your mind and how it has an effect on your life and your brain. Um,
Yeah.
so I would really say when my mom passed is what made me want to continuously and really put in the work to really taking control of my life. And the
Yeah.
first part again was just telling my brother no more around my kids, no more faking it, no more going to, Thanksgiving dinners at his house just because, I wanted my kids to be around family and, just, I didn't want to be fake no more.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I
When
was
did
tired of being
you
fake.
when did you start therapy, and do you still go to therapy, or where are you in that?
So, I had a therapist through this nonprofit called SOAR in Delaware. Um, so I had this first therapist, right? And I always tell it's a vibe with your therapist. And I'll be telling people if you go walk in with a therapist and you ain't catching that vibe, it's not the one for you. It's a
Yeah.
trial and error. Every therapist is not going to be meant for you, right?
Mhm.
So I had this one therapist, loved her. The first one I had, right? Had it for like 8, 9 months. This was in like 2017. That's when I first started seeing a therapist. And she left after 7, 8 months. She moved to Atlanta and opened her practice. And by that time, again, that was my first therapist. So, we are building that rapport and that relationship. So when she left me, I was angry because I'm like, you're the first person that I opened up to and you left. So I was
Mhm.
angry. I didn't know
Mhm.
how to process it, right? I was
Mhm.
angry. So I didn't see another therapist for like almost maybe a little bit less than a year. Um, and completely honest, I didn't like her because I would just come there and talk. It wasn't no digging deep. It wasn't no
Mhm.
homework. It
Mhm.
wasn't anything that made me think. It was just me
Mhm.
talking to somebody. And the only thing that she did was like, oh, you're a sex addict. You should go to a sex class. And I remember her saying, just be careful because there's other sex addicts there. Majority of the people hook up. So you got to be, aware of that. And I'm like, whatever. So I stopped seeing her. Um, and then when my ex fiance passed, he passed August of 2018. I remember going to see her and I was upset and crying. And then I didn't like the way she handled things. So I stopped seeing her, was mad again. And then I
Mhm.
saw my therapist that I see now, who I freaking love.
Yeah.
Soon as she walked in, like, she's amazing. So I still see one.
Mhm.
Because even though she's like, oh my God, you do all the homework, and I'm like, still, and I kind of tell her things, she's like, I didn't know that. So it's like now it's like she feels like I don't need to see her anymore because I
Mhm.
have did all the homework. When I tell
Yeah.
you, you got to do the homework, you
Yeah.
got to want to do it because
For sure.
you have to put in the work, and
Mhm.
it's so easy to be like, all right, never mind, I'm just gonna just not see my therapist every week. I'm
Mhm.
gonna cancel, or I'm not gonna write in my journal. I'm not gonna
Mhm.
meditate. It's so easy
Yeah.
to not do the work. So now I don't see her as often. It's like once a month now versus every week. Um, so I still see her, but I don't honestly, as much as we say it's ongoing, my healing doesn't have to consist of a therapist so much now.
Mhm.
It's
Mhm.
more of just more educating, helping others, a lot of writing, a lot of meditation, a lot of being silent, um, listening to myself, and just helping others really is like my healing because I've
Yeah.
literally done all the work. And it was
Yeah.
a lot. It
Yeah,
was a lot.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. It's definitely a lot of work, and I do agree that that there's something really therapeutic about helping other people. I
Absolutely.
learned that some
Mm-hmm.
years ago. I'm going through, I'm maybe feeling sad, depressed, whatever it is, and I just, kind of reach out and start helping someone else, and you know,
Mm-hmm.
and it's
Mm-hmm.
like,
You
oh,
feel back to
okay,
life.
I feel better,
Yep. Yep.
and
Mm-hmm.
as do they,
Mm-hmm.
which was the point. But I was really
Mm-hmm.
surprised when I realized that, like, this actually makes me feel better, you
It,
know. Yeah.
absolutely. I love it. I love it. I feel like this was my purpose. I feel like um, I'll just getting emotional because I've been through so much stuff, and I feel like I was chosen to help others
Mm.
because I went through a
Yeah.
whole lot,
Yeah.
and I wasn't addicted to drugs, alcohol, pills. I never tried to commit suicide. Of course, I had suicidal thoughts,
Mm-hmm.
but I never actually did the act of it. Thank goodness. I think my kids, not I think, my kids were the reason why that I never, acted beyond the thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so, someone that I was close to, just him knowing my story was like, you went through your situation raw. And when he said it, it like connected to me. I'm like, I did go through it raw. I went through it just the best way that I could, which made me such a strong individual. Um, and I just feel like I was meant to go through those things because it didn't break me. Those people don't have power over me at all. And now it's like my time to help the other people that may not have the strength that I had or
Mm-hmm.
may not because I didn't have anybody to go to. So another reason why I want to do what I'm, am doing and continue to do is because I didn't have those platforms. I didn't even know about the hotlines and
Yeah.
online, and you could talk to this person and that person, because that was in
Right.
1990s, right? So you're like, I don't
Yeah.
know. And even with me liking women, having my first experience with a girl at 13, I didn't know that there was a such thing as LGBTQ or bisexual. I didn't know. I just thought that I like girls, and then tried to downplay it because I didn't know who I was, because I didn't know. I wasn't educated. So
Mm-hmm.
there are so many things that I just felt like, I'm just one of the chosen ones to help so many people realize
Mm-hmm.
that they're not alone. There's our platforms. Um, and I'm so peaceful now that I know my purpose. So
Wow.
I love it. Like
I
I don't
love
even,
that.
I don't feel sorry for myself, because there was a time where, like, I don't like when people feel sorry for you, but you feel sorry for yourself sometimes when you go through things. You just have that sense of like being down, and I
Mm-hmm.
used to always use my abuses, and I'm not saying that you can't use an excuse, but for me personally, I use my abuses as an excuse for many different things that I went through my life, like
Yeah.
cheating on everybody that I was with. I'm like, oh, I was, sexually abused and raped. I can cheat, and not just
Yeah.
owning up to it, and just always
Mm-hmm.
using those as an excuse. After a while, it gets old, and it's like, okay, bro, what are you gonna do so you can step out of feeling sorry for yourself and using it as an excuse, and then using it as power to take your power back. So,
Exactly. Yeah.
mhm,
Yeah. Exactly. Um, so what are some of the things that you do to kind of help
mhm.
other survivors? Do you have a platform or somewhere where maybe someone can go and and kind of see your story, or help, that kind of thing?
Yes. So I just started a premium chat. There's so many things that I want to do. There's so many things that I want to do. It's like, I just wish I had the money to do, because let me tell you my ultimate goal, and then I tell you what I'm doing right now. So my ultimate goal is to
Okay.
have a nonprofit all around. You got to start slow, but I want to have a place where all walks of life, men and women, because there's a lot of men
Hmm.
that are abused and raped too. That it's a double standard, and that's a conversation itself that I want to always talk about too. But I always want to have a nonprofit where men and women can come, and you can get counseling, get STD testing, job placement, clothes. Like, it's just like a one-stop shop to get
Hmm.
you to go back into the life that you deserve. But like,
Yeah.
I just see it all over.
Yeah.
So that's the ultimate goal, or even just having a car service where people can't come out their homes, and me or someone else pulls up to your house and just listens to you, give you a care package. And if that means, incense or candles, journals, everything, just a care package that I have done to help people. So that's the ultimate goal. What I do right now is I have a premium chat service where you can live video or chat. If you just need someone to listen to, because again, I'm taking my experiences from when I was a child. I didn't have anybody to talk to. So that's a big part of just feeling like someone else is there for you. So, so I have that too. So people can chat with me, live video chat, tell me what's going on, if they just want me to listen or if they want me to give them advice. I have that. Um, I'm starting to,
I'm going to
mhm.
interrupt you just for a minute. So what you
Yes,
just
ma'am.
talked about, the chats,
Hmm.
can people connect to those chats through your ShanteJackson.com? Can they find?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Okay.
Yes, and then all of my platforms are I am Rebirth Reborn. That's my Instagram. Um, that's my TikTok. That's my YouTube. I am Rebirth Reborn. And I always, because my one of my companies are called Rebirth, and I created that company because rebirth is like, I felt like after I healed, I am the person that I always was supposed to be. We are not always have to be the person that you were when you was going through all those trials and situations. You can
Mm-hmm.
always be reborn into the person that you want to. And it's
Hmm.
so I take big pride in that, being rebirth. So
Yeah.
that is that's my company.
Hmm.
So yeah, so all my platforms, I am Rebirth Reborn, TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. So yeah, the chats are my first kind of trying to get myself out there
Mm-hmm.
to help other people. Um, and I kind of want to make sure I do that through YouTube. I'm not a social media person at all. I'm 40 years old and I really don't understand it, but I know that's the way that you can connect to people. Because if
Yeah.
I wish I can do this without social media. Because
Yeah.
I just
Yeah. I
yeah,
get it.
but
I get it.
but I just know
I mean,
that some
I'm with you there, absolutely. But yeah, it was like,
yeah, but this is how we can reach people, right? So you got to kind of just
yeah,
just be quiet and just do it. So I'm trying to get myself out there so I can reach more people. And because the insecurities that I have with being on camera is big for me. I could talk to anybody all day, all long, but as soon as I'm on camera, it's like,
mhm.
I don't know, I get a little
Yeah,
insecure about it. So
yeah, I'm with you.
I'm trying to
Yeah,
work. Yeah, like I'm trying to work through that because
yeah,
people are not going to relate to you until they have a peep inside of who you are and a face to it and things like that.
yeah,
So I'm starting to educate myself
yeah.
on that, and I want people to relate to me. I know I'm relatable, but I know I have to show my face to do so. um so that's what I'm going to do. I want to go over, I want to travel and talk to men and women and kids all over and teenagers. That is my other thing that I want to do. When I talk to so many people, especially when I used to have hair and I used to get my hair braided in the African community. When I told her what I wanted to do, she was like, "Your work is needed in South Africa. There's so many, and I'm sure other parts of Africa." She's like, "There's so many women over there that are being
Mhm.
assaulted, and they
Yeah,
just feel like it's their fault." So she was like, there's so much work for it to be done. And when I hear that, I'm just like, I just want to go ahead and just like not try to, I want to help as many people as possible,
hmm,
especially how the world is now, how you have to, the person that got raped and abused have to prove themselves more than the person that actually did it. It's
yes,
such a double standard and I
yeah,
cannot stand it. So
yeah,
I want to put a voice to so many things that are just not right in our
yes,
world because it's sickening to me and
hmm,
I can't stand it. I don't
yeah,
get it. How do we got to prove ourselves that we are the person that got raped or abused? And
yeah,
then there's a
yeah.
double standard. I was sexually assaulted by someone that I was with, and I told my therapist she wanted me to go to a class of other women that were sexually assaulted and raped from their husbands, boyfriends, because again, society thinks that rape is you in this dark alley with somebody that you don't know.
Yeah.
It's not. It's so many other things.
Hmm.
And people don't believe that you can get raped or sexually assaulted from your husband.
Hmm.
Yes, you can.
Yeah.
So, you know, I just want to talk on so many things that people don't want to talk about. So, and it's just, it's sexual assault is so many things. It's a friend, it's a best friend, it's family members, it's a boyfriend, it's a girlfriend, it's a teacher, it's anybody,
Hmm.
and I think people don't understand and respect consent. And I'm
Yeah.
big on that.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yeah.
there's a lot of work. There's a lot of work for me to do, and I just want to,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll talk offline, but you talked about
Mm-hmm.
wanting to do the nonprofit, and yet
Mm-hmm.
standing is a nonprofit. And
Yes.
I actually just got established within the last few months,
Yes.
and
Congratulations. That's big.
thank you. Thank you. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, let's talk offline,
Mm-hmm.
about some things, because like you said, I see this kind of being all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
And as I'm connecting with people, I mean, you're in Florida, I'm in Virginia, you
I'm in
know,
Delaware.
um, I believe that
Mm-hmm.
there's things that we can do,
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, let's have a
Mm-hmm.
conversation,
Mm-hmm.
about that. Is there anything, any specific thing that you would maybe want to say to someone? They're a survivor, especially those people, the ones that they've never ever spoken about
Mm-hmm.
it.
Mm-hmm.
They believe it's their fault. They're full of the blame and the shame.
Mm-hmm.
Um, they're kind of in that stage, and
Mhm.
their life is a life of survival, like merely survival. Um, what would you say to someone like that?
First, I would say you actually have to be open about it and you have to recognize and actually voice that it happened to you. Do not be in denial about it. I was in denial a long time. Like these
Hmm.
things didn't happen. And that just furthered and impelled me from healing. So,
Yeah,
first, I would say it would be verbally, if it's to yourself, a friend, a therapist, primarily yourself, like this happened to me. Like, because once you can put a finger on it and say it,
yeah,
it's a relief, right? Because if you're just like, okay, you like you hear it, like it happened, but once you like,
yeah,
okay, this happened to me,
hmm,
I feel like that's such a aha moment. And then
yeah,
after that, you're like, oh, I recognize this happened to me. Now I can go to the next step. I said
exactly.
it. I said it to myself. Now I can go tell a best friend, or I can go tell a therapist, a life
Hmm.
counselor, a life coach,
Yeah,
because now I already recognize that it happened, and it's so
yeah.
much power in realizing that this has happened to you. Because once
Absolutely. I
you,
always
if
I always say call a thing a thing.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Call it what it
call it what it
is,
is. Yes,
call a thing a
yes.
thing, and
Hmm.
then once you do that,
Hmm.
there's the power that the thing had, but once you call it
Hmm.
out,
That's
that's the
yes.
kind of taking your power back, from
Yep.
that thing.
Yep. Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, that was one of the things that, like I said, that's one of the things that I probably could have healed a lot sooner, but I was just in denial of it, right?
Yeah.
I was just didn't
Hmm.
know. I was like, man, I don't want to say it.
Yeah.
But once I
Yeah.
did, everything just kept lining up for myself. So I would definitely
Right.
say that. And then I would definitely say therapist. And there's so many bad things a therapist, especially if you grow up. I can only speak about African community households. Therapist was always looked frowned upon, like
Hmm.
you don't go tell your business and it stays in the house. So I would say that's not true, and they're there for a reason. And you need to reach out to somebody.
Hmm.
If it's the 1-800 hotline, or a therapist, like, just because there's so many things that you may not be aware of that can help you.
Hmm.
So if you're one of the persons that want to Google and look at things yourself and find it, then that's all good. But sometimes we don't know. And those therapists and counselors and hotlines can help you get to who you need to talk to, so you can
Right.
continue to heal. And healing
Right.
looks different in so many different forms. Um, but I know I used to always take advantage of writing things down. Even my mom used to say, write it down. I used to always just keep it up here. And our
Hmm.
brains are awesome muscles, but um, writing things down, it can, like,
Hmm.
my therapist always tell me, like, and even if before you have a therapist, people that are listening, even if you don't have a therapist yet, write your emotions down. And if it's just anger, just words that you just feel that you are, just write them down. Um, and just write how you're feeling down. And I also would say, be silent. I even tell my kids this: be silent with yourself. Like, turn the TV off, and, like, because when you're by yourself and you're silent, you got to listen to yourself. Yourself is going to tell you what you need.
Hmm.
Um, so I would, if you're always on the go and you're always doing this and stuff, you can't really. You got to sit down.
Yeah.
You gotta just. I don't know how to say it, but you got to listen to yourself. You got to be silent. You got to spend some time with you, because
Hmm.
you are the person that you are your biggest supporter. Number one, ain't
Exactly.
nobody
Yeah.
gonna, is no one's gonna make you feel how you feel inside you. Like, I'm my biggest supporter. I self care, self love. I date myself.
Yes.
Is listen, like, because
Yeah.
how you treat yourself is how everybody else is going to treat you.
Right.
So
Right.
you got to set the tone for anybody else coming into your life. So once you treat yourself well and you have your power and you're healed, everything else is going to fall in place.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I yield.
I agree. Thank you so much for that.
Mhm,
I
mhm.
agree with everything that you said. One of the things that I meant to ask, and this is going to actually be my last question. I wanted
Okay.
to ask, in terms of your family, um,
Mhm.
how do they feel about, like, the book, and you're being vocal, and that kind of thing.
That's a sensitive subject, but I'm very genuine, and I want to be very transparent, right? So my book came out 2021, 2021. So once, like I said, my mom passed in 2019. My mom was the glue for me, right? I really don't get along with both sides, either my dad's side or my mom's side. I mean, there's a few people because I was always like the outcast. So once my mom passed, there was no point of me really. I just don't really be around my family for many reasons. Because there's some uncles, there's some cousins that were very nasty. Very nasty comments. That's just inappropriate comments that was always made to me.
Yeah.
So, so I dealt with that type of thing, not even from the people that assaulted me. It's from family members that were just, so I don't really, no.
Yeah.
So there's probably only, probably like 3 or 4 people from my family members that bought the book. I don't have any support really from anybody about it.
Yeah.
At all. So, and I think it's because there's demons in both sides of my family.
Yeah.
That I know about. So they're, me being transparent and telling my story probably makes them have to deal with their own, and they're not ready for it. And they're way older than me. So it's like,
Yeah.
I'm
children?
okay with it.
What about your children? You mentioned, I think you said something earlier about they know your story. What do they? Yeah. How do they feel about things?
So I have 2 girls. They're 24 and 20. They knew since I think I told my oldest when she was like 15 or 16, maybe a little bit younger, because I was very, very. I didn't let my daughter go nowhere. That trauma of you want people to spend the night, they're over here. Yeah. So that's another, we can go on and on about that situation. So I think I told her when she was maybe 13, 14. My youngest, I told probably around the same age. I always wanted to be honest with my kids. So they are aware. They're aware that I consider myself bisexual, but more so lesbian, but whatever. So they know that, who I am. I've always been very honest with my kids because I always wanted them to be honest with me. So it starts with the mom. So they know, they're aware. They didn't read my book. A lot of their friends, actually more of my kids' friends, have been supportive than anybody else. So because I try to be a mother figure to a lot of girls.
Yeah.
So my kids didn't read it because they already knew. They know, but I'm their mom. So they just know what I've been through, but they don't want to really talk about it like that sometimes. Because obviously it hurts them.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, my kids are, they're my friends. They are people like, oh, how is your kids your friends? I'm like, you have to understand, my kids are 24 and 20. I'm not saying we go drop it like it's hot somewhere, but my kids we have a wonderful relationship where we are very honest with one another. And, that's and now, especially since my mom passed, we are very, very close. We've always been close. My kids are the reason why I'm here.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Do you think that them knowing your story, do you think that in ways sort of help them to maybe protect themselves, or to maybe, just kind of understand that there's this out there that happens and protect themselves in ways? Or
yes, I kind of want to say something, but I'm not sure if my daughter's ready.
Okay.
But my youngest went through something.
Okay.
So, and I had to deal with that too a year ago.
Yeah.
So that was very heavy.
Yeah.
Heavy.
I'm sure. Yeah.
Very heavy.
Yeah.
So you would think that it would, and you pray that things don't happen to your kids that you went through.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
So I went through that with.
Yeah. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I get it. Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry
Mm-hmm.
about that. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, as much as we, as much as we want to, as much as we,
Yes.
think we can, I mean, we
Exactly.
do the best we can, but
Mm-hmm.
we
Mm-hmm.
don't have any responsibility or power over what,
Mm-hmm.
someone else is going to do, or what
Mm-hmm.
someone else is going to bring
Mm-hmm.
into our lives. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I get it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Shante, I really
Mm-hmm.
appreciate this conversation. It has been great.
I
I'm so
appreciate you.
glad that we connected. I think I found, was it on Instagram? I think I
Yes.
saw
Yes.
some things.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, I saw
Yes.
some of your posts on Instagram, and I just thought, oh, I have to talk to her.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
So
Thank you. I appreciate
again,
you, and I appreciate your platform too. So thank you, because you are inspiration of what I want to do, and I feel like you provided this platform for us survivors, because we're survivors now. To share our story is going to help so many people. So thank you so much. Kudos to you. Thank
thank you.
you.
Thank you so much. And like I
Hmm.
said, we're going to talk offline about some ways that maybe we can,
Okay,
do some things together, help each other
absolutely.
out on our platforms.
I would love
Um,
to.
yeah, so I'll
Hmm.
definitely will be in touch with you on that. Thank you again. Again, I
Hmm.
appreciate your transparency and your
Yes.
bravery, for
Thank
speaking
you.
up and speaking out. And I know it's going to help a lot of people. I will let you know when we're going to put this out on social media. It'll be on my Facebook, YouTube, Instagram pages, and I'll let you know when that happens. I'll share the link with you. Feel free to share,
Thank
as
you.
you see fit.
Hmm.
And yeah, we will talk again soon.
Thank
All right.
you.
Enjoy the rest
Bye,
of your day.
everyone.
All
Peace and
right.
love. Bye.
Take care. Bye
Bye bye.
bye.